Well, the president said there would be consequences, and now the Trump administration is delivering on those threats to the United Nations. Ambassador Nikki Haley announcing the U.S. has negotiated a historic reduction in the UN's operating budget for the 2018 fiscal year. This comes just days after 128 countries denounced the president's decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. David Lee Miller live in our New York City newsroom. There's a lot of news, really, out of the UN now, David Lee.
Indeed, there is, Leland. Let's start with this. Last year's UN budget was $5.4 billion, that's with a B, dollars. And according to U.S. UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, the U.S. has now negotiated a $285 million budget reduction. That's about 5%. No specifics on how the money would be saved, but Haley said there have been reductions in what she called the UN's bloated management while instilling more discipline and accountability. In a statement released by the U.S. UN mission, Haley said, and I quote, "The inefficiency and overspending of the United Nations are well known. We will no longer let the generosity of the American people be taken advantage of or remain unchecked. This historic reduction in spending, in addition to many other moves toward a more efficient and accountable UN, is a big step in the right direction." Haley's announcement follows a vote in the UN General Assembly rejecting President Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. After that vote took place, the president threatened to cut funding to countries that voted against the United States. Ambassador Haley warned that the U.S. would be taking names, and true to her word, late last week, Haley announced that 64 countries that did vote with the U.S. will be invited to a post, or did not vote against the U.S., will be invited to a post-New Year's party. On the list of attendees, Togo, Micronesia, as well as Guatemala. Guatemala, by the way, just announced that it is going to be moving its embassy to Jerusalem. Now, as for the UN budget, a recent study showed that UN employees generally earned higher salaries than their U.S. civil service counterparts. The United States is the single largest contributor to the United Nations, paying 22% of its basic budget. Japan is the second largest contributor at about 10%, which is less than half of what the U.S. pays in. And very, very quickly, Leland, on the complete other side of the spectrum here, 31 countries contribute the bare minimum, which is 0.001%, or about $28,000 a year towards the UN budget.
Yeah, and there's some diplomats who probably rack up close to that in parking tickets that are unpaid here in New York City. David Lee, appreciate you being with us. Waleed Ferris with a lot more on this coming up. Cheryl?
Yeah, we've got a lot more on that story later on in the hour. And you know,